But I feel like and I'll feel like very doomed or like down about the world, but I don't really know if it's like connected directly to things I report on. I feel like there's a lot of people around the world now who have a gloomy view on whatever's going to happen for our future, and that just kind of goes with the territory for a lot of people. But I don't know. I mean, and I'll have those feelings sometimes, like more generally, but I don't really think I like go to sleep thinking about like how depressing something I worked on was or how bleak something was.
Hello and welcome to Here in LA, City Hall Edition. Today, we talk with John Peltz. Up until very recently, John was a writer and editor at Knock LA, the independent online news outlet, probably best known for the LA Sheriff Gang database. If you Google LASD gangs, Knock LA is what comes up first. John worked for them for a little while, and just a few days ago, parted ways. But, you know, John still covers politics, City Hall, homelessness, and a lot of the tough stories that aren't as glamorous as others, but I think way more important. In this sit-down, we'll talk about, does he ever get emotional watching homeless people get their stuff taken away? We'll talk about what it's like to cover the Echo Park Lake arrests like he did, where even the press were cuffed by the cops. We'll even talk about the pros and cons of the Grove, a place he had to go to a bunch of times when he was covering Rick Caruso's failed run for mayor. So here we are. Johnny! Hey everybody, I am here with John Peltz. P-E-L-T-Z, right?
P-E-L-T-Z, yeah.
P-E-L-T-Z. I'm here with John Peltz. He is a writer, journalist. He works downtown at City Hall a lot, but all over LA.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk a little bit about downtown. Welcome, John.
Hey. Thank you for having me, Tony.
Woo!
Thanks for the applause, everyone, here at this live studio audience.
It sounds a lot louder on the podcast than just me being an idiot. John, thank you so much for coming here. John is you're a writer. Are you a full-time writer at Knock?
Knock has no full-time employees. We are currently trying to fundraise because our goal is to hire 2 people eventually. I remember when I first sort of was following sort of media around LA. I think LA Taco had a similar fundraising thing where they wanted to hire a couple people. But yeah, our goals are like kind of just focused on getting a couple full-time people hired. But no, I'm still technically a freelancer. At Knock we have our administrative duties are sort of volunteer positions called service positions, and like they rotate. Although recently I've been the person who manages the pitches to Knock, the pitches editor for about like 6 months now. And Ceresa's been the managing editor. We have an in-progress editor who's Katya. She's amazing. We have a social media person, Jamie, and I'm trying to think of who I'm leaving out. We have a rolling trove of treasurers, and so we all get paid monthly like stipends for that work right now at the moment. But yeah, so but I write and edit for Knock, but I also freelance and write for other publications as well.
What other publications have we seen you in?
Recently, not that many. I've been pretty focused on Knock, but before I moved here, and I used to write about pop culture in Miami and nightlife in Miami. So I did a lot of work for Vice and for Playboy.
What?
For High Times, yeah.
Excuse me?
Yeah, for Billboard. And then when I moved here, I did some video game writing before I wrote about politics. And
you're living every teenage boy's fantasy.
It's a freelance assignment, sorry.
No, but hold
the
on.
glamorous life.
We're talking the fantasy, though.
Yeah.
The fantasy is Playboy, High Times, and video games.
Yeah.
When a 12-year-old John, if I had told you, in the future, you will be getting checks signed by Hugh Hefner, Cheech and Chong.
I feel like he was probably dead, or Hugh Hefner was probably dead when I wrote for them already. But I understand your point.
What was your article in Playboy?
I interviewed. I used to work at this film festival, and I think the year after I first worked there, I got in as press. So I interviewed some filmmakers, and then I think the one that came out for Playboy was an interview with Charlie Kaufman.
Not bad, because he's Charlie. I love Charlie Kaufman.
Yeah,
because he's kind of weird. He's actually really weird, right? Was he weird in your interview?
He wasn't weird. He was. I have a different. I mean, when you're at a film festival or like you're talking to a bunch of like actors and directors and people, a lot of them have, very strong personalities, right?
Yeah.
And he was clearly like very. He co-directed the movie he was in. So the movie at the time that he was showing was Anomalisa, which was the stop motion movie. I really liked that movie a lot.
Yeah.
And he co-directed it with this guy Duke Johnson, who I know did a lot of work for Moral Oral and like some other Adult Swim animated shows.
Oh.
And he was sort of doing this thing where I think he wanted to be like giving the credit to the other person. It's like, oh, everyone wants to talk to me, so I'm gonna really just talk to Duke. Or when you ask a question, like he would I would literally ask him a question, and if it was anything that had to do with like his past career, he'd be like, well, we're talking about Anomalisa today, and so why don't you ask Duke some questions?
Right.
So he was doing this like kind of standoffish thing, which may have been trying to give his co-director credit, but obviously like I just been really assigned to talk to him. Right. So it put me in a difficult position.
Okay, so High Times, what did you do for them?
Oh, that was okay. I covered a mushroom festival for them.
Oh.
Where I participated in a little mushroom parade.
Hello.
I wore a little mushroom hat.
Well, only the parade you participated in?
What do you mean? What are you trying to ask?
Did you eat some shrooms?
Yes.
All right.
But there was also like there was foraging, there was cooking. It was the whole gamut.
You defined the shrooms?
With like a guide, and they had it was sponsored at by this really bizarre what seemed like a very like you call it like a pseudoscience or like someone who's like Uri Geller who like bends spoons, or what do you call that, like a fraud or whatever.
Yeah,
it just seemed there was this company that was like sponsoring the whole festival that was very involved in like every little aspect. So like you go to an event and they would try to sell you these like cordyceps like pills, or like supplements, I guess, like over the counter kind of supplements, and they were trying to get like FDA approval, but they had already like developed. But they would like say stuff at this festival. I remember that was like that like if you took these supplements, they would like cure. Or like if you gave the supplement to your dog, it would like cure your dog of cancer. Or like these massive claims. And I remember I was making fun of it in this High Times article, and they're like, we don't want anything on this like shady company. Just tell us about doing mushrooms and foraging. I'm like, all right. And then I interviewed, and so they cut it all out. But I remember I interviewed the head of this company. It was like it's funny because it's like something I would probably like in my current like mode of journalism would be a lot more interesting to me to publish something on it. But at the time I was like, this is really bizarre, and this company's really around everything we're doing here at this festival. And anyways, so I interviewed.
Hold on a second though.
Yeah.
You were on mushrooms at a mushroom parade. Mm-hmm. Was that really cool?
It was a very like positive, like family friendly parade, and everyone was wearing these cute little like mushroom costumes. There were kids.
Did the kids know what was going on?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much like people know about like using psychedelics growing up anymore. Like, as I feel like when I was growing up, it was still sort of like you gotta. It's really hard to find psychedelics, and you gotta be quiet about it. And I feel like nowadays it's not really,
Well, that's also kind of the magic of psychedelics is unless you tell somebody, they won't know that you're on them.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's not always, but yeah, for the most part. And I think at that time, the town that was having, I was staying with my parents, so I didn't want to go too crazy.
Which town?
This is in Telluride, Colorado.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's super legal up there, right?
I don't know I think it's decriminalized.
Right.
I don't know. It's not like
Biden hasn't approved of this yet.
Yeah, I don't really know.
I don't know what you're waiting for, bro.
Yeah, and I know like a lot of medical facilities, and like, Johns Hopkins famously is like studies how psilocybin helps like people with
as if I need John to
tell you.
I mean, you're thousands of years we've known that it's okay. I don't need a guy over there in a white jacket.
Sure.
We know it's okay.
Yeah, but so I don't think I was getting too crazy, and a lot of the other parts of that festival were like there would be people who would do presentations on megadosing. So they like spend like every day of their life doing. I'm stupid with drugs, so like I don't know if like what the extremely high amount of mushrooms would be,
Right.
but there would be people who they see themselves as like cosmonauts and whatever, and or psychonauts, and I just cosmonauts. That's the actual
same
one.
diff.
Yeah, and so they would talk about these like days of tripping they would do, and
Wow.
and to like discover, and I think the working theory a lot of them had was that like it was which totally possible was like that life started on Earth from spores that came. Like alien spores that like fell on the ground, and that's how life started on Earth. And so a lot of people would,
we used to laugh at these kind of theories, but now that the government is admitting that they've run across UFOs, I don't know.
They could just be talking about little spores.
Let me ask you this one final thing about this shroom parade.
Okay.
As a journalist, I have a hard enough time sober, like keeping notes. And did you have like a tape recorder rolling the whole time? Like how would you remember what was going on?
I was taking copious notes in like I think it was like a phone notepad app. And a lot of the stuff, and if I was talking to people, I would record it. Yeah.
Okay.
So those would be voice recorded. I'm the same, like, generally speaking, like they specifically asked me if I could take, I was asked to take mushrooms. And prior to that, like if I would go out to like interview a musician or like go to like a show or like a movie or whatever, like I would be writing about for a culture thing, I would not do it. I would make myself stay, even though I was at like a nightclub, I wouldn't drink even. I would be completely sober. Like artists offer you weed, and pretty standard, like that's a pretty standard thing for people to offer you weed.
Yeah.
And I would just either like take it home and like give it to someone, or take it another time, take weed, smoke it another time.
Yeah.
Or like, but I would always be like too paranoid to be like, I don't want to like be in a situation where I embarrass myself in front of someone like this and like try to, So I would like always stay pretty sober, except for that one time at the mushroom parade, but also like, but again, like I also didn't take very like just to downplay it a little. Like it was a very little amount of mushrooms. Like as someone who I enjoy mushrooms, and I've taken a lot more at different times, but during that particular time, I didn't take very much.
Because you were on the clock and you're professional.
Yeah, yes, I'm so professional.
Seriously though.
Yeah.
Because if you have any experience with psychedelics, you know what your limits are. You know what's possible. You know where these things can spin off into. Meanwhile, journalism isn't just showing up and asking questions, and they just random politely answer every single question you have. So it's a struggle. Both of these are struggles, and if you're trying to mix the two, I bet you that's really hard.
It can be. I also think there's like an aspect of me that's like, what's the point of even doing that sort of thing anymore? I feel there was that like whole. I mean, obviously, like people were all, like would always, like people who like to write a lot. I feel like that stuff like would always talk about like Hunter S. Thompson or David Foster Wallace or some like experiential gods or whatever. And then like the like late aughts came in like the 2010s, and literally like every article was like, I sat at an Arby's for 10 hours and took acid, and like that was just almost became its own like inner like joke that people make fun of, that journalism had kind of become. Yeah.
I never really believed that Hunter did all that though.
Oh yeah, I mean,
I just thought it was part of the fiction.
I think there was. I feel like there was like, also, having not really read a lot of Hunter, I've read a couple of his books and like some shorter pieces, but like, he really doesn't talk about like doing drugs all the time. Like it's not really like even a huge part of like everything he writes. Yeah, like it's probably in it's probably in the Las Vegas one a bit, but I think like the Hells Angels ones, he probably just drinks a bunch and like.
Rick Caruso, the billionaire. You covered him a little bit. You followed him a little bit. I'll put it this way. I never heard Rick Caruso talk about the Grove and the Americana. Like, hire me because I've given you 2 things that you never knew that you wanted. In fact, I remember when they were building the Grove, we said, we don't want this. We've got the Beverly Center for a mall. We've got Melrose for street stuff. Why do we need another shopping area? And it turned out to be the most popular one. I don't remember Caruso ever touting that when he was running for mayor.
He would say stuff like, I went to a fundraiser once at this person's house. I just showed up. That was a fun night.
It was?
I ate a lot of prosciutto.
It was a rich person's mansion?
It was some rich person's mansion. Me and another knock reporter went, and we were like, there's no way they're going to let us in. And they let us in. And didn't.
Were you dressed nice?
Yeah. And
why wouldn't they let you in?
I don't know. I was like, there's no way they're going to let us in. And I was live tweeting it. Mm-hmm. But I remember during that fundraiser, he specifically talked about, like, he would use, like, how he would do the I know how to build things, and like,
yep.
So it would be adjacent, and like he would have press events at the Grove, like he would have events like.
So it's implied because he's at the Grove. But the reason I ask it is when and
he has an office there,
right?
And he would do his interviews with the LA Times there.
Understood, but in his debates, like in his real public stuff,
yeah.
When I was driving Uber people around talking politics, which you shouldn't do as an Uber driver, easy way to get a 1-star. They were like, "Oh, he owns the Grove," and I was like, "How does not everybody know this?" And then I would listen to him, and he never said it on the mic when I was watching. It just seemed weird.
Maybe he didn't want to. Maybe it was like a messaging thing that like I'm not just malls. I'm not just about malls. There's other things. I don't know. But that's interesting. I never really thought of it that way because I was so.
Because that's what he's known for. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
That's his thing.
Sure.
And everybody loves this thing. We love the Grove. Do you love the Grove?
It depends.
Do you love the Americana?
I've spent less time at the Americana. I've spent more time at the Grove. I live closer to it. Mm-hmm. I like going there. There's just...
You're so hesitant to say anything nice about the Grove.
I like going... It's just... Okay, my problem with it...
Yep.
Is I like the Cheesecake Factory.
Why is that a problem?
Because they don't let you bring shit from the Cheesecake Factory into the AMC.
Well, of course not.
But it's overlooking the movie theater. So you think like they want to share their business. Like, so like all the stuff I want to eat when I get to the Grove is that I want to like get a cheesecake and like bring it in to the AMC, and I'm not allowed to do that.
What you're saying is delicious.
Yeah.
I want you to have that now.
Or like my Buffalo Blast. I like the Buffalo Blast there, and I would love to bring them.
What's Buffalo Blast? What's that?
They're these fried, like hot pockets of buffalo chicken and cheese.
At Cheesecake Factory?
Yeah.
Ooh.
It's like an $18 appetizer, but it's like 70 fucking like pockets.
Sounds great.
Yeah,
So is it something that you would share for the table? Is it enough that you can...
I think that's the intention.
But you just munch them all, which is perfect for snacking at a 3-hour Oppenheimer movie.
Yeah, I just don't like that you can't bring the stuff into the AMC.
Mm-hmm. And that's such a small percentage of people going into the AMC that they should allow it.
Yeah, I don't see why they wouldn't.
And you're probably gonna have to end up paying for parking a little bit because if you do Cheesecake Factory plus the movie, that's gonna extend beyond the free parking time. It's not even free. It's like $5, even with a movie ticket.
I think it's like 3. I think 3. It's like 2 or 3 with validation.
It feels like 5 to me because I'm so mad.
But I love Din Tai Fung, so I guess that's part of the Americana, right?
Yep.
So they have that. Although it's moving to the other one, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So
anyways,
but there's also like no shops. The problem with the Grove is there's like nowhere to shop there. I mean, like
for regular people,
well,
for regular men.
Well, all the big shops are just like. It's like an Apple store in like a Nike town. Yeah. It's like you don't really buy stuff there. And then and I guess Barnes is the closest you have to being able to like go. And they have that like little coffee shop next to the parking lot. Uh-huh. They have a cute little coffee shop next to the parking lot. I forgot the name of it.
They got the sprinkles over there?
Yeah. But I guess the Barnes, if you want to peruse the 50% off Criterions, is nice.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
That is a good thing there.
Criterions there. But
see, this is a podcast about LA. Yeah, the Tashin has sales too.
Oh, right. That's like right by the entrance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess there are some places, World Market, we can shop at.
The other thing that I don't like about the Grove is like all those like kiosks. Like they seem like places you would go to like after the like to get like an ice cream or coffee after the movie. But they all close at like 9:30, and like it's like everything I want. It's like everything I want there is like I just can't access it when I want to.
Yeah.
Because I remember my parents were visiting and we went to see the movie at the Grove, and then like my dad's like, I want ice cream. And then we just couldn't access the ice cream kiosk, and it was like it wasn't very late. I remember it couldn't have been very late. And I was very frustrated. It seems like the perfect thing to be open late.
The farmers market ice cream guy wasn't open at that hour?
No, they closed the farmers market off at like 10. I mean, they like locked the doors, but I don't remember what time.
Isn't it weird about LA? So you lived in Miami for a while. I've always thought that it is weird how early LA closes up.
Yeah, it was a big cultural shift from. I mean, it's because like when you live in Miami, everyone's like, "Oh, LA, it's like the West Coast Miami."
Yeah,
and you're like, "Oh, okay, I guess that makes sense."
Not at all.
And then it's like, "Oh, there's celebrities and there's the beach," and then you get here and it's like everything. It's like, "Oh shit!" Like I gotta leave my house to get dinner quickly. like yeah, it is really weird. Places in Miami would be open till 5, 6. There's 24-hour famous. There's like a couple 24-hour strip clubs.
So, I'm sorry, 24-hour strip clubs.
Yeah,
I think our strip clubs are open late.
Are they? I've never been to one in California.
I don't like to go to strip clubs in my own town. Mm-hmm. I feel like if I still got it, I can get a pretty girl to come over here.
Sure. It's different. It's a very different experience.
Is it though?
That's right. To hook up.
You don't know the girls I know.
Oh, okay.
But I just think it's weird that this city is so big. And I would also think there's a lot of cocaine in this city. Like, why is it that Miami can support late hours and we can't support it? And New York, the same way. Why can businesses thrive after 10 p.m. in those cities and not here?
It's not only that. I mean, like, it's also that the people who live there can like stay out every night till late, and then it's not like here. I feel like it's deemed a little bit. You can't go to a bar on a Monday with your friends and get blackout drunk here. like they will judge you. They'll be like, I don't know if you should come out with us tonight. Like the next, but in Miami,
it's part of the culture.
It's part of the culture. I mean, it's part of the culture to get drunk like on weekday nights, and I'm sure it could be very unhealthy.
Do you think this is an extension of New York because a lot of New Yorkers love Florida? And smarter people would probably say something about like Spanish culture and that people in Europe start going out later. There you go.
Probably more the connection there, but
although I've heard in Korea, even among business people, especially among business people, drinking late at night and then working at 9 a.m. is the thing.
Yeah, I think it's definitely in other countries, and like obviously like I just always felt the culture, like people in Miami, like there was shitty like dive bars where like people just start dancing at them.
Yes.
And you don't really find that as much here.
No.
Either. I mean, there's obviously places where you can do that, but like in Miami, it's kind of like maybe I'm over fantasize or
no.
But it always felt like that could just break out at anywhere you kind of were. And people like if you wanted to go out on Wednesday night and get trashed, like you'd wake up the next morning, you'd be fine. No one would be mad at you.
Yeah.
I don't really feel it's just not socially acceptable here.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, and it's I mean maybe in some like I moved here relatively recently, so maybe there's like pockets of LA where it is, and I just don't.
No,
I don't really
even Boys Town I think shuts down at 2.
Right, and there was a whole argument where they were talking about. There was that state law where West Hollywood was potentially going to stay open later, and the argument was that like if people don't have to leave all at the same time, they won't all hop in their cars, or they won't all take this. Yeah, so they'll like leave, so the streets will be safer. Was the argument, which I can sort of see. This makes sense to me.
Okay, so I've been driving Uber for on and off for 9 years here, and when I did do late nights, and I was in West Hollywood, either on the Sunset Strip or on Santa Monica Boulevard, you would see floods of people coming out of the doors. But you would drop off these people at midnight. So they only had like an hour and a half to like binge drink. And that's my biggest argument about it.
It's like people were condensing their drinking into more dangerous. Yeah.
And so if it's not cool to go to the cool club at 10 p.m. and it's only cool to go there after midnight, you're just going to be binging. Yeah. And that's not good for you either. Not necessarily now you're going to hop into a car, but now you're really freaking plastered on the middle of a street. That's not good for a city. Yeah. And so this 4 a.m. thing I thought was really smart because, as you said, now you can pace yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense to me.
And now that we're working from home, you can be hungover in the morning.
Yeah, it's harder. It's harder when you're older.
Well, but you don't have to have your suit and tie and your dress and try to pretend to look pretty at 9 a.m. Okay, but now you're writing for Knock LA, and you focus a lot on city politics.
Yeah.
I want to ask you if you have a favorite city politician. Is that allowed? Is it allowed for a political, a non-biased political journalist to say he's got a favorite?
I don't know if I'm allowed to. I mean, you could ask me like specific questions. I don't know if I want to say I have a favorite. Also, I probably wouldn't have a favorite. That'd be like picking between they're all so wonderful. They're all just such lovely people. How can I even pick between
when did you
Monica
start
Rodriguez and Kevin DeLeon? They're just so
it's really hard to choose.
Yeah, they're just all love. I think there's like situations where anyone who's living in a district for long enough is going to see like different things about like, oh, this person's more available. This person's staff will respond to your phone calls or respond to an email. This council member's staff will not do that. Or
right. Yeah. I live in CD13. Yeah. Mitch would answer my emails, my tweets, whatever I had. His people would. Yeah. Hugo treats me like I'm dirt. I've not gotten a response from him.
Yeah. Is it solely email?
I've called.
You've called.
I've written his people. Yeah. He's got one person on the website that's supposed to be just this area that I live in, and
a district or a field.
Yeah. 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 I mean, these districts are way too big. Yeah. And so they split it up, and so I had a past guest, Joe Berendo, who worked for Garcetti when Garcetti was just a council person, and he goes, "That's how you do it. You direct your email to the person for your little neighborhood." Yeah. Yeah. And that person hasn't written back. And yes, I'm a little bit more obnoxious on Twitter than your average Joe. But still, I have ideas for this guy that will help us all, including him, and at least just answer my call is all I'm saying.
Sure.
So back to Monica. Is she perceived as somebody who, I don't know, is she well liked out there? I don't know her district.
In her district? I don't know I'm honestly like, one of the things I'm not the best at is going out to like the Valley districts. Like, and,
you're not alone.
Yeah. And so, and especially with like, and a lot of, I feel like a lot of like my reporting on the city is like, is perceived through my own like political lens or whatever, or the topics that I'm interested in. Mm-hmm. So it isn't always about a long-term opinion or of the constituents about a council member. It's not always about elections or services. It's more about like, what's this motion they want to do? What are they trying to vote on? What are they trying to divert money to? Yeah, I could be better about that. I'm just one guy. I'm just one guy,
You're so much more than that. Especially on shrooms. You're probably like 18 guys.
You know how I don't know if I know that many people, like my personal life, who live in her district. I probably know more people who live in like Paul Krikorian's district, or people live in, I guess now, Imelda Padilla's district. But,
is Paul a popular person?
I I've heard people say that he's responsive.
I have a feeling he was probably
His office is responsive.
I have a feeling he was probably more popular before he became the mayor pro tem.
You think so?
Yeah.
You think it's just like a whoever goes into that seat? It's just like it's a toxic sort of situation.
I would not call it toxic.
Yeah.
I would call it heated.
Yeah.
And it takes a special person to run that thing.
Yeah.
Now, especially because of people like the People's City Council and the situation between the LAPD and the activists.
Yeah.
And I don't think Paul was built for that kind of a thing. I think he was built for 1980s City Hall, where it's old ladies who are like, there's dog poop on my sidewalk. And it's like, he can handle that.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, like, optically, like, I don't even think that, like, I don't think it does any of them favors to see, like, them, like, to see, like, well, I guess now, he's not there anymore, suspended. To see, but Price was doing the pro tem stuff. I think, it does them no favors to see them like act like substitute teachers in school, like yelling at the students. Like, I don't think even people who don't like that there is people yelling at City Hall like find that endearing, or find it endearing when like the city attorney's office is like, let the record show the person is turning their back on. It's like, who is this for? Who thinks this is cool?
And who is that guy, by the way?
That's the one guy that people always make fun of in the live tweets is Fauble. He works in the city attorney's office. He's just like he just cannot let him. I almost feel like part of it too is like, so after the tapes came out and the protests in City Hall got maybe more consistently aggressive for a bit. I shouldn't say that, but not aggressive, but more. There were just people who were vocal every day. But you also, even before that, like you'd have the very like racists people in City Hall and who would come every day, and they still come every day. But I feel like after the audio and like there was probably a lot more media coverage of like every city council meeting, you would see these arguments happen more, because I feel like it was very much like we're on camera now. I'm in the city attorney's office. This is my little 15 minutes of fame to be on camera, and I'm going to use it to lecture people. Right. Like, and it's like no normal person is like watching that meeting and like, I hope the city attorney's office gets that person out of here. Like, I just feel like they're either probably enjoying the spectacle or they're just like, who are these bureaucrats? Like, why are they like, get out of there? Who are the bureaucrats? Yeah. Who are the bureaucrats' friends who aren't telling them, you look like a douche doing this? These are... I didn't say that. But if you were their friend, you would say that, right? If I were the city attorney... Well, I mean, I would... You'd say you don't look good. I would say, I would say the optics are not good for any of them when they engage in that behavior. But to me, the biggest problem is this is coming at you, and you never change. You always look shocked that they're swearing. You're shocked that what they're asking for, and you don't seem like you're prepared for any of this kind of a thing. And you're the guy making six figures. Yeah, you're the guy who's been doing this for a long time, and yet it seems like it's your first day on the job, and you're the manager of Wendy's, and you don't know how to handle a pissed off customer. I don't know if there's some ulterior motive around it where it's like they wanted maybe people who are newer to watching these meetings to tune in and say like, and to let them know that they were outraged, and to let them know this isn't how city council normally goes. I don't know if that's like the motive, to be like, we're doing this little performance for the newcomers who are watching because of this big media scandal, or it could be that, but yeah, it's just like, and you can tell they don't really get, like, a lot of the times, like especially when former councilwoman during Martinez was running meetings, like just so how many like of the other like rules in the city charter they just like would just not give a shit about, except for when it came to people yelling and protesting, right? Like these like people who would skip, like Gil Cedillo would, like, people would skip meetings, and like they just wouldn't care about any of that stuff except for when people would yell. So it was always it just seems like it's a very convenient thing.
And it seems to me that the ones I've watched on the live stream, almost every single one has a person who says that Kevin DeLeon should resign.
Yeah.
Is this an ongoing theme on the meetings that you've been to?
There is one commentator who comes a lot, and she always sings these really funny, like rhymes. That's I forget her name, so I apologize if she follows me or something. And I know Adam Smith does his folk songs, his beautiful folk songs. But yeah, I feel like we're almost like so far away from that now too, where it's like not only is there no, and the election's coming up obviously, and who knows what'll happen there, but we're so far away from them asking him to resign. I mean, on Fridays when they, city councils they're on recess now, but like in Fridays when they would do these like presentations, like cultural events, things happening in the district, like Kevin DeLeon goes up and makes presentations and has people cheering for him and has like joyful introductions by record will be like, and now Kevin DeLeon with a presentation. Like they're really,
which is also not a good look.
I
Paul?
think, yeah, I believe it's still a contingent of the council will walk out when DeLeon will do that. I think it's like maybe council members Yaroslavsky and Hutt and Soto Martinez and Hernandez and Rahman. I think they all still walk out when he does that sort of thing.
Oh, good.
I think so, but I remember, I think when he did a presentation, people were still leaving the chambers for that. Some people were.
Good. Good.
But in terms of like any procedural thing to remove him, I don't think there's anything.
It would kill him to write a law.
And then there's also I mean, you should probably get Rob Kwan on here. He probably will.
I don't know Rob Kwan.
Will have more knowledge about what that would require. I don't really know the nuts and bolts.
But these are lawmakers.
That's true. I mean, when they want to pass a law to outlaw encampments, they could do it pretty quickly.
There you go.
Like, but when it comes to anything involving their own government body, it takes
which
years.
It's not supposed to happen in L.A. Right, and it's not supposed to happen among Democrats. Democrats are supposed to be different than this.
I think that's also like a part of like what like knock is, and it's just like it has always been on the attack against Democrats in California. I feel like it's one of the few. I mean, I feel like that's what's interesting about it, or at least when I joined, it was like I feel like it was definitely one of the few places to write for that was definitely unafraid to criticize any Democrats, even though like the framing is always going to be like from the left or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I mean, there are. I feel like there are, especially during elections, like you'll hear from people that are like, oh, why are you making fun of this, or why are you criticizing this person with this amazing long Democratic career? And it's like, well, what have they actually done? Like you always hear like about this person or that person just having this long storied political career, and when you meet them and or watch what they do, you're just like, this doesn't seem like they're interested in helping people. Give me an
example of this. Are we talking about Mitch, or are we talking about Eric?
I was talking about neither of those people.
Oh, good for you.
I was talking about someone I always had a negative experience with, even in interviews, and then people always, I feel like, defend him, was former Councilmember Paul Koretz, who I really did not think was engaging on like any issues with people. Like, and he was, so it's also to his credit though, I remember he was one of the, and when I thought that was like also like really ugly when he left council his last day, and he was just like, he was doing like some weird rephrasing of the "I yield my time, fuck you," and it was like, and the people were like laughing and cheering him on, and it's just like such an obvious hatred for his constituents. But
he was bitter because a Pikachu beat him for controller.
But he had also come out, I remember after the tapes came out, he had come out with a really strong statement calling for all three council members on the tape to resign. I think actually before he came out with a really early statement. Obviously, Councilmember Bonnie came out with a very early strong statement, and I think Rahman, and I think Caruso came out with a strong statement as well. Because people were very critical early on of Bass putting out Bass's statement had like, it's all about getting people together for unity and talking this out or something. It was some like statement. It was a statement that didn't explicitly call for any it might have called for Nuri. I probably fudged the timelines. I think very early on people were calling for Nuri's resignation, and then it kind of percolated to others. But I remember Caruso had called for the resignation of all three people on the tapes pretty early on.
Well, of course, he's a Republican.
Yeah, and so did and so did I believe Koretz did as well.
Right.
But I always found just talk about someone with some of the most brutal sweeps I would cover or go to were in his district.
Let's talk about those real quick.
Yeah.
These sweeps, these are the 4118. Is that
no. I mean, like some sweeps would happen. Yeah. Like there are 4118 zones where sweeps will happen, but a lot of these are just on the Care Plus sheets. These are cleanings that are done by the mayor's office, or they're done with funds from the mayor's office. That ostensibly it was started to, Lexus Olivier Ray, who I believe has been on your show, he's done a great series of reporting on it for LA Taco. Sort of like basically the impetus for it was like when Garcetti was mayor, he would go to encampments and provide them sanitation services and cleaning while simultaneously offering them services and housing. And Lexus's reporting found that Lexus's reporting found that it was very small amount of people who were actually placed into housing from any of these cleanings that are still ongoing under the current mayor.
So when you were out there, what did you see?
In Koretz's district? Yeah, I would feel like I would see just like I've seen people be placed into 5150 holds, mental health holds. I've seen people arrested at those sweeps. A lot of just harassment by police. I've seen situations where police would come by and say, just like yell into tents, basically, you have 10 minutes, things like that. Just
you think this is a reflection of the council person?
I think it can be. I mean, like, I think that I think there are certain districts where you go to these cleanings or sweeps, or whatever you want to call them, and the resources will be maybe tilted less towards the police being there. There might be less hostility towards the people at the encampment. The actual, once sanitation gets there, if the council and a lot of these things, if the council office isn't sort of there to, I feel like, direct them or tell them like what they shouldn't be doing or throwing out, or who they shouldn't be maybe more aggressive towards. Like, if you don't have those resources there to like assist with the sweep, it's largely going to probably go worse because people just don't. There's like, I guess we're going to throw everything out, and that's it. And so I feel like there's districts that handle it better, and districts that handle it worse.
Who handles it good? I'm asking a journalist opinions.
I don't want to.
You said it.
I don't want to say it because I just don't think that I don't want to be in a situation where I don't go to enough sweeps in a district and then I miss the really bad one.
Come on now, John. Help us out. Okay.
But I will say, I remember his districts were particularly bad.
Give me an example of the proper way to do a sweep then. How's that? Is that better?
I don't know. From my personal opinion, I don't really know if there is a proper way to do a sweep. I mean,
well, first of all, we should consider that this is these people's possessions. First of all, they're the poorest of the poor in the city.
Yeah.
And these are their stuff. This is their stuff. People could look at my living room and say, like, this is all trash. Let's throw it out.
Yeah.
I've had girlfriends who have said that, by the way. And they might be right.
Yeah.
But it's still my stuff. And so some people have said, treat these poor people's possessions with respect.
Right.
And so if you do have to move it, do it like you would do it with your stuff.
Right.
You know, would you agree that that's the proper way to look at things?
Yeah, I would say that like I don't understand who it helps to force someone to store their property, 30 miles away from where they are, and then go up to pick it up.
Is that what happens
Well,
sometimes?
if they don't throw it out. I mean, if they don't throw it out, they store it. And
so is it up in the valve?
And then you have to go. If you're the person, you get a ticket, a receipt with an address on it, and you have to go within, I think, 90 days, get your belongings back. So it's like, I just don't see who it helps.
Right.
Seems very wasteful.
So you've got to like rent a U-Haul or something. Like somehow this very poor person who's literally living on the street.
Yeah, I mean, like I have, and like during some of these, I've been to some of these Inside Safe operations. The mayor's this new Inside Safe initiative, and some of them like, and I don't know, like when you go and you're a journalist and people who work in these offices recognize you or know you're going to come. I don't know if that changes how friendly people are or whatever. But like I've like during some of these Inside Safe operations, I've seen people from council offices pull up with their truck and like be like, I'll help you move your bike, or I'll help you move this, so then like we're taking you to the hotel and we don't want to have to make you store this, so I'll help you with that. And I have seen people in offices do really, I guess one might say it's like a basic kindness, but but I have seen people do a lot of stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And again, I don't know if it's because they know the press might be there.
Good. Let's have more press then.
But yeah, I think that's a lot of people I talk to. I feel like go to sweeps or go to cleanups or whatever. I think it's a pretty like. It's not the best. It's not great for storytelling, like because in the sense of, I don't like to really interview that many people during those situations because I don't want to interfere with something that I'm sure is, if someone's trying to move their things or move to another location, it's a very, I would assume very traumatic, and
stressful,
tough part of their life, tough part of their day.
Yeah.
So I think people go, or the people who I know, reporters who I know who go, sort of do go with the idea like, oh, if I go and monitor this or see what happens, maybe it won't be as bad.
Right.
And I do think that's a part of it. And I think it's like, yeah, I don't think I've even written that many stories, like written stories, because I think I posted a lot on like social media, but like it's not amazing for written stories because it's the same thing happens a lot of these things. It's like these people's days are ruined. Mm-hmm. The city looks kind of unforgiving and hostile, and then it happens again.
Do you believe in astrology?
Do I believe in it? Not really.
This is why I ask. You're a Cancer.
Uh-huh.
Cancers are the leaders of emotion. So when you see these sweeps, do you get emotional?
I don't know if I get emotional in the sense. I would say it's hard for me to be at something like that and think about other things or be multitasking or like doing other like tasks or like writing, because if I'm like at city council, it's very easy for me to be watching something happening or while writing down or tweeting something or coming up with an idea. But if I'm at something like a sweep, it's a little more difficult. It's kind of like just like very like you're just kind of watching this stuff happen around you. It's hard to really have other sort of thoughts or things going on. But I wouldn't say I get like very emotional about a lot of the stuff I do like that where I'm out. And I don't know if part of it's just like you kind of like pull out of your body maybe a little bit when you're like being like, I'm going to cover this and post it on social media. And so I want to frame this, in this way and write this tweet out or take notes or whatever. And maybe you pull out of your body a little bit when you're doing that stuff.
I feel like journalists have to.
Yeah.
Because if we do get too emotional, then our storytelling is skewed. But I guess I'm just asking you, when you drive home, when you're about to go to sleep at night, do you think about what some of these people have said and what the the city has said in response. Like, do you ever see people crying as their stuff is getting thrown in the garbage can?
Yeah. I mean, you see. Stuff
That would make me emotional.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, that's a tough question to answer. I mean, like, I don't know, maybe I'm a sociopath or something, but I don't think that, like, I don't think I go to sleep. There's times when I'll like go to sleep, but I feel like and I'll feel like very doomed or like down about the world, but I don't really know if it's like connected directly to things I report on. I feel like there's a lot of people around the world now who have a gloomy view on whatever's going to happen for our future, and that just kind of goes with the territory for a lot of people. But I don't know. I mean, and I'll have those feelings sometimes, like more generally, but I don't really think I like go to sleep thinking about like how depressing something I worked on was or how bleak something was. Now I do like really try to be respectful and connect to people after I if I interview them or use their name or anything like that, and I try to be in situations where I'm not just going to somewhere and then like never coming back to that location, or never in a place where I could follow up with people, which of course will always happen in some circumstances. Like there's circumstances where you're just never able to find someone again.
You don't want to be the guy that just parachutes in, takes the picture of their lowest day ever, and then goes back to Malibu.
So in that sense, like I do get like anxious and emotional, and be like I'll get on myself and be like, oh, I want to make sure I'm not fucking this up and doing this the wrong way, and I want to make sure like if it's like, oh, this person got their attention destroyed, well, that looked good on video, I guess I'll just leave and go home and never talk to them again. I will like try to follow up with them and try to email, especially if like someone's like, hey, I asked for this, or I don't know who the service provider was that contacted me the other day. Like I will call the council office and I'll be like, I feel like a lot of like I do it, and I'll try to frame it like I'm writing a story, but I'm just trying to find information to help someone.
Good for you.
But like, I would assume I would hope that like other journalists do that, and I would think they do. I'm sure they do, and so like I'll try to do things like that, but I don't think that like it trends towards like me coming home and like being like, wow, that was fucking crazy. I also think that's like not really helpful to always act like that, or to act like you. I don't know. I feel like I would almost feel like guilty if I let myself feel like, oh, I just went through something crazy. I don't know. It seems kind of like weird, and I mean, I don't know.
Sounds like you're the right man for this job. Seriously, because
I also like to game a lot. So like that takes my mind off things a lot too. And like when I get home, I'm not like, if I'm not writing something, I'm probably like consuming some like intensely what do you call it, like immersive content. So maybe don't.
No, I ask from my own experience.
Yeah.
I'm in my 50s, and so when I was in college, the first Iraq War was happening, first Desert Shield and then Desert Storm, and this was before the internet, so we had to watch a lot of TV, listen to radio, and read newspapers. And I was blanketing myself with all this really sad news about how America was going to carpet bomb all these poor Iraqis over a lie, that somehow they were involved with 9/11. And it made me so depressed that I had to stop writing for the newspaper, which was my favorite thing in college. And at that point, I realized I might not be the right man for this particular job.
Yeah.
Because it does affect me. And it is hard for me to just go home to a beautiful girlfriend, to a nice apartment, a safe block, and just get high and watch The Simpsons.
Yeah.
And so I admire people like you who've figured out the balance and how to compartmentalize things. And I also appreciate people who just get in their car and cry for a half hour before they go home.
Let me just be clear. I don't know if what I'm doing is healthy. Like, I don't know if the way I approach things is the right way or if it's the healthy way.
Yeah.
And there's also other things in my life that I get very suppressed about, and that affect me in ways that, and like there are things I struggle with, but I don't think that for whatever reason I'm able to approach it that way.
You got 99 problems, but this ain't one.
I didn't say that.
It's a hard job. It's a hard job. It's dangerous now, and it's more competitive because there's fewer outlets, and it's really a hard gig.
Yeah.
You bring up Lexus. Lexus was harassed by both the LAPD and the city attorney.
Sure, yeah.
Which would not have happened to him if he wasn't writing for LA Taco. And so... And what was he doing? He was on the street covering a celebration, and he gets harassed, and he ends up with PTSD.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know. I don't know.
He wrote about it.
Okay,
he wrote about it. He said this gave me this, and I was afraid to go outside. I was afraid to do things.
We've had conversations. I mean, I've had situations where I've been like, is this worth? I mean, that's the whole thing. Is like you end up thinking like, is this worth it? Like, is it worth, like, if I don't have like a game plan for my own career where I'm like, and I don't have any game plan where like, I think I'm going to write at some bigger outlet or I don't know what I'm doing. And if I'm like never in a place where like, I can probably be, have that backing or comfort as like, oh, these city officials or police or whomever might know who I am, or that they might like be a little less aggressive because they think it'll be a bad look for them to harass a journalist. If I never have that, like I'm like, is it worth it to go and keep doing this kind of stuff? And then now obviously there's Ben Camacho getting sued by the city attorney's office, who's another writer at Knock.
But I mean, people knew who Kate were. People knew that Kate was a journalist.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
And they still...
I mean, they knew who when me and Kate Gallagher, who was a colleague, she used to work at Knock. She is now at another media company. But shouts out to Kate. But when she and I got arrested, from the time that we were surrounded by the police to the time that we were taken on the bus and then taken to the detention center.
This is at Echo Park.
This is Echo Park. We had told them multiple times we were journalists, and we were also both wearing. And I think other reporters had tweeted out on social media about it, the arrest, and I know what's it called? Me and Kate were also wearing our Knock LA T-shirts. So like, which isn't, I guess that in my opinion, that's a pretty clear cut. Not many people have those T-shirts.
No. I've never seen one.
We need to get more prolific with our merch.
But to your point, you probably have to work there to have a T-shirt.
I don't know how many T-shirts are going around.
But that's what I'm saying, though.
Yeah.
You're probably a journalist.
Yes.
You're probably their journalist.
Right. They knew who Kate was, and they also detained her like cameraman and her like. I can't remember who else from her, if it was like multiple producers. I forget, but it was multiple. Yeah.
So yeah, okay, let's rewind just a little bit. The city had decided that at midnight they were going to clear out the encampments at Echo Park Lake. Something like that. Around midnight.
I don't remember.
In the middle of the night, they were going to clear out. And
they were. What was a 2 day? It was a 2 day. I was there the second day.
Okay.
So I believe I was there on the 25th, and it was on the first night was the 24th when there was there was a protester there. I remember the night before got his arm broken closer to the lake, and then the night we were there, they had sort of set it up so you couldn't really go as far into the lake. You were sort of stuck in the surrounding areas.
The police had set up a press watch area.
Yeah.
Where you couldn't watch.
Correct. Yeah, and they called it a Crespo zone. I think is what is what they established. By the way, established after this guy, like this, it was established in a lawsuit by this journalist Al Crespo, who is a Miami guy. He just recently died, but he was covering like a protest in. Al Crespo, rest in peace. He was in a Florida prison for bank robbing. He was a bank robber turned journalist.
My kind of guy.
Yeah,
is he a good bank robber? Well, he got caught at least once,
but so he was covering some sort of sports like a sports celebration or something like that for like a TV outlet like a CBS or an ABC, and he was holding a camera and he got shot in the head by like a rubber bullet. And there's like I've seen the pictures of him like it's like a dent. It was like a dent in his head, and so he sued the LAPD, I believe, with the help of the ACLU, and that's what led to the establishment of the Crespo zone.
Okay, but still, I would happen to think that that's still against the Constitution. Freedom of the press doesn't say unless city council makes a Crespo zone, screw you in your zone.
Well, also, there's nowhere in the Constitution where it says that the municipal police agency decides what the press can and can't cover.
Right.
Which is how it's a lot of times it's, even when you go to sweeps, like, as I'm sure you've seen on social media, like they'll set up, yellow lines that the press cannot go through, even though it'll be on the public sidewalk.
Yeah. And
you'll see, people get ticketed, or there is a law on the books that says you can get ticketed for like interfering with a sweep, and which I know they gave to Sean Carmichael, and I know they gave to William Good, right? And
which was super shady because there were no lines on that particular arrest. It was just a cop who is.
He was like, you have 2 minutes to leave, and he's like, never mind, I'm going to arrest you.
You're arrested now.
Yeah.
Which is why they dropped it.
Yeah.
Because it was nuts, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's, there is I can't remember the name of there is someone who's like filed some sort of suit against about 40 million. I think a lot of the laws that like city council passes or especially like it just doesn't, they don't seem like they but they need to be challenged. So like
okay, so let's go back to Echo Park Lake. Yeah. They told you to go to this. Are you good with Yiddish?
Like I don't know Yiddish. I can pronounce it.
I listen to Howard Stern all the time, and so he says Yiddish things all the time. I want to say Fakemkin. What would you call this?
Verklempt?
No. It's a
Fakakta?
Yes, Fakakta.
Fakakta.
So they set up this Fakakta zone where you can't even see. Like they picked a place where you can't see.
Right. It was nowhere near the. First of all, I mean, you couldn't even see into the park itself because that was already, I think, being fenced off. And
right.
But then,
do I need to be out there and just yell at the umpires all day? Just like what?
But and also, when we were arrested, we were with 20 cameramen. Like it wasn't just KK. I mean, there were other people who, like, it was just a whole media scrum that was just like, we don't know where else we're supposed to go.
Right.
Like, we're blocked in on both sides. They wouldn't let us leave from once they told us to leave on one side. The police came in from the other side and blocked us in. And I think there may have been like I remember thinking like are they trying to at the time it was like it became very obvious they were like blocking us in so they could arrest us. But I remember before that I was like, are they trying to direct us into these like small slivers of sides out of the sidewalk? But that was not the case. I think they were just but they were very obviously trying to block us in and keep us from leaving the area.
Let me, if you can answer this, and I appreciate how professional you are. Why are the cops like this? What are they hiding? What are they protecting? What do they think they're doing? I know it's impossible for you to get in their heads, but Do you have any sense of why they would act this way on this particular thing? They everybody knows it's going down on this day. So everybody knows if you've 20 photographers, you've kind of invited them. Everybody knows it's going to go down. Why are they acting like this?
I don't, I think part of it is that there's frustration with the fact that so many people are giving them bad press, that they were not getting any good press from this event. I think just the way that they will respond to some journalists who are critical of them, like myself, or like, and this is just talking about Echo Park, but like following that and before that, I think it's like, they'll respond differently to journalists they think are critical of them than they will of journalists they do not think are critical of them. So I think part of it's like they don't want the bad press. I think part of it's with the video cameras. I always thought that this was, some sort of mass protest exercise for them.
They were protesting the press.
Well, I'm not saying that, but I think like the entire night it seemed
that
like
would make sense, though.
I do think there was. I mean, I think the press was targeted. Absolutely. I think that much was obvious after multiple reporters were telling him, when they're arresting KK Olin, she's obviously a journalist. I don't see how you can call that targeted. She's a whole camera crew with them, but then at the same time, like they had these field cards, and which I think are no longer being used, where they made you fill. They tried to ask me for my social security number, but they had
on that day they asked for your social.
Yeah, and I didn't give it to them, but they asked me for it. LAPD. I
mean, I guess you can ask if somebody's gonna be dumb enough to do it.
Yeah, I mean, but it seemed like they were documenting some sort of mass training protest exercise, how they would respond to protests now after the 2020 George Floyd uprisings, and like, so I feel like we were like part, and I don't think they were happy the press was there, and I think they were definitely targeting us, but I also think that this was part and parcel of some larger exercise they wanted to do with how they dealt with mass protests and how they dealt with removing encampments, because the encampment removal itself is like pretty well documented by the LAPD, and I think and also following that night, they would talk to, I remember they would talk about like press advocates or to someone, but they were like emailing back and forth with like advocates for journalists, because it was like, I think it was something like the most people arrested in one night in America was like at Echo Park or so. Like it was, I forget what the exact stat is, but NPR wrote about it, and that was like the line they used. So it was like, of all the journalists arrested in this year in America, like some percentage is whatever from Echo Park. And then, so I think because there were so many, journalists arrested that day, there was a lot of back and forth with the LAPD and like press advocates. And I recall them like, in these like follow-up emails, they're like dissing specific journalists and calling, they're like, actually that person's not a journalist, they're an activist. So they're also like making themselves the arbiters of who can and cannot cover them.
And it didn't happen in a vacuum.
Right.
Black Lives Matter happened because of police brutality. And it seems like the police reaction to that is a lot like my issue with the mayor pro tem and the city attorney is, oh, you don't like us? We're going to give you something really not to like. Like instead of like being professional about it and saying, oh, yeah, it is a bad look when we're shooting unarmed people and we're putting our knees on people and killing them. We're just going to up the heat. And so I guess part of my question on why the cops acted the way that they did at Echo Park is, I wonder if maybe part of them is, I want to break a John. I want to break a Kate so that they stop doing this. In this fantasy that there's not going to be somebody that replaces you, who's going to be stronger and tougher and wilder. You are such a polite person.
Oh.
You're exactly the person that I would hope that the police would want in front of you. Because you're being fair. You are fair. Your reporting is both sides without being the bad version of both sides. You know what I'm saying? And like you do the work. and you're not getting paid very much, as far as I can tell.
I got paid.
All right, good. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like you're the last person that they should be worried about. And I know that they'd rather see Paul Majors out there, or even probably Sean Kennedy. They would rather have out
I
there.
don't know who these people are.
Good for you. God bless you. They'd rather have Tucker Carlson out there,
All right.
right? Lord knows he's not getting arrested in that kettle.
I highly doubt. I mean, like I've literally been out.
Because he's not a journalist. That's why he's not going to
I've
get
been
arrested.
out with like other journalists in front of people. Like I've been out with people like in scrums and whatever, and seen like people like former Sheriff Villanueva like pick and choose who he's talking to and then pretend the other people don't exist.
Right.
Like I've seen them. You know, all these people do the same shit. And like,
Yeah.
I mean, people in city council do that too. I don't know if you saw the video of Liz Chow recently. She was at she's with LA Public Press. She's a great reporter, but she was with she was at a press conference with like Mayor Bass and Councilmember John Lee, and she's like circling around John Lee saying like, what do you think? I don't know if you saw this, but like the LAPD in that district was saying they wanted to like mass arrest like all these people with this one encampment, and then also in like follow-up public records requests, it was found that like they removed, you know, tree branches above the encampment. So she was like asking John Lee about it, and like he's just like circling not to respond to her. And this is like a press conference. Like, you know, like these are all events where they've called the press to come.
Yeah. This is again my problem with it. All these people went to good schools.
Yeah.
All these people are getting paid well. You don't practice. There's not like some sort of like prep before you do the press conference, like, right?
It's just weird. You can't come up with something like you could,
Right.
you could say anything. You, I mean, you could like,
Well, how about, that's a great question.
Like-
our office will get back to you tomorrow. Like, it's that
Yeah.
simple. You don't have to run away at a press conference from a journalist.
yeah. I mean, people would do that all the time. I've seen, you know, the first few times I would approach when I first started like approaching Garcetti at events, because his office wouldn't respond to me really.
Yep. You're not alone.
And so I would start just approaching him like, you know, that's what you got to do. You got to find them at whatever event they're going to. And I remember I approached him at a Thanksgiving event, and you know, they were doing the whole, his like press guy like blocked him off with his body, and then like he was like rotating away from me, and like eventually when I would see once Garcetti like knew who I was, he's like, okay, I'll come up with something, and he would tell me something, or sometimes he would give me a good answer even.
Yeah.
Like that's like sometimes he would even respond directly, and
Crazy concept.
yeah, and so and it would just always be so strange to me when I started doing it here, and like that also makes it like like when I first started going to these sorts of things as a journalist in LA, it also made me feel like, oh wow, these people really don't get like challenged on anything, like which was kind of like exciting. Like it was exciting to be like they're not gonna they're gonna be surprised when they have to actually answer these things, and like so that was exciting for me, like also to do that kind of stuff. But at the same time, yeah, it's like frustrating to be like, I don't think I've ever asked something that insane or like that anything irresponsible or like not founded in truth. And so it's always crazy to me when people are just like refuse to engage with you, or especially elected officials. It's
Right.
like,
You covered, I don't think you were there, but you covered the when Kevin DeLeon in a Santa's hat,
oh yeah.
I want to say choked out a who was the guy that he choked out?
That was Jason Reedy,
Okay.
who I believe is in People's City Council.
Okay. Bad look for KDL, right?
I would say the optics
Bad
are
luck.
not good on that one. Yeah.
And then he threatened to sue the guy for assault, and the guy threatened to sue him for assault. I don't think anybody ever really truly got sued.
I believe they both were interviewed by the LAPD, and the LAPD said they were like investigating the incident,
Yeah.
but charges haven't been filed against anyone, as far as I know.
Right.
But yeah,
Which doesn't shock me. LAPD doesn't want to. The LAPD likes Kevin.
but if they go with say the council member's story, then people say, oh, they're
You're in the pocket.
they're in the pocket of the council. If they go with the activist story, then the council could say, oh, the LAPD isn't protecting us, or
Right.
they aren't defending us. And
Good luck with your $80 million raise next time,
so
boys.
I can imagine it's not. I would think it's probably a very politicized decision.
Which is why I'm not shocked that the LAPD watch their hands at it. But my point is that maybe this is why politicians try not to engage with the press, because they know they have short tempers and they know they have thin skins, which is horrible for that job.
What's actually very funny is that, I don't know if it's funny, but it probably actually is pretty indicative of the personality of someone like that, was before the tapes, his office probably hasn't responded to me since last October. But
wait, you've reached out to Kevin's office,
yeah,
and they won't write you back?
No.
Why? Again, don't you think this is unprofessional?
I mean, I think they're scared. I mean, the office is a joke. They have multiple people on staff as communications. So after they have, because the head of communications is Pete Brown, who, by the way, also handles their always incredibly late public records requests. So their comms person is handling their public records, which I think is crazy. I don't see how you could not want to, the Public Records Act is something you legally have to respond to. I don't see why you would have someone in charge with the narrative that you need to put out for whatever you're doing or whatever your goals are for your office.
The spin.
Yeah, it just seems silly to me. It just seems like a bad conflict of interest. But no, they've never. I don't think they've responded once, and
they're late on their Facebook all the time. Like, they'll be doing something good for the community, like free food or something, and they'll advertise it like 15 minutes before it's about to happen.
Yeah, and
it is a mess over there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess we'll see what happens with the. But I guess what I was saying before is Councilmember De Leon was actually one of the very, for me at least, he was always very approachable, very nice. I feel like he's one of those people who's a natural politician in the way that I think he thinks he can win everyone over to his side.
Right.
And so he'd always be very effusively nice to me. And when he was running for mayor, it's always pretty easy, especially compared to say someone like Rick Caruso. It's pretty easy to access him and ask him questions about well, if you were mayor, what would you do about that part of it was pretty. He was very approachable. It wasn't until tapes when he became.
Yeah.
And he
when your racism comes out, I bet you change.
And I think I think he would even invite me to events. He'd be like, we're doing this mayor. I'm running for mayor, and I'm gonna go visit this community. You should come, John. He would invite me to that stuff. Actually, Bass's campaign would invite us to stuff as well. But
let's talk about Caruso, because we know KDL's bad. We all know this.
Hey, I'm objective. I think it could go. It could go either way. Everything's a double-edged sword. I don't know.
He's bad. Audience, what do you think?
He's bad. Oh.
Well, you can't call a black child.
Yeah.
You can't compare a black child to a purse and then not have a town hall. Because that's my advice to him, is this hasn't blown over because you say it's blown over.
Right.
And it's great that the Latinos in your district are supporting you, but they're not the ones who are offended. It's the black Angelinos who KDL and they try to redistrict out of having any representation. And those are the people that you need to reach out to if you want to continue political life in LA, is my opinion. Crazy person. Also, I'm black, and I was once a young baby, and so the history of black people is we're looked at as objects. We were slaves as just objects, not humans. And so all KDL is doing is extending that into this century in LA, which it should not happen. So little energy around that. You work at Knock LA, sir. There's a lot of superstars that work there, and you're one of them.
right?
But I would say the biggest superstar is Cerise. Mm-hmm. How do you say her last name?
Castle.
Cerise Castle. Mm-hmm. And she's a superstar in my mind because she has done things about the sheriff's department that I feel like no other outlet has done.
Yeah.
To the extent that she has, including a huge database. And it feels like with the cooperation, I don't know if it was intended to be or not, with People's City Council of Google LASD gangs, Knock pops up as number one, right?
For Google LASD gangs?
Yeah.
I would think so.
I mean, that's why they're telling people to do it.
I think that brings up. I forget if it brings up the first start. I mean, maybe we should do it right now, but I don't know if it brings up the first article, or if it brings up the database. But
it goes to Knock.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome because Googling something that generic should go to the LA Times or AP or somebody like that. Somebody huge, right?
Well, they could never get to that level of exposure because they refuse to use the word gangs, I think.
Isn't that strange?
Yeah, I mean, that
call
was
it clicks or whatever.
That was the whole yeah, well, I think in recent writings since I believe since that one shot caller, alleged shot caller at the COC meeting, the Civilian Oversight meeting, I believe he was saying he was in a gang at this meeting. I think maybe after that or following that, the other guys maybe started saying gangs more, but they would say subgroups or cliques, I believe.
They also say deputy gangs.
They also say deputy gangs, yeah.
So SEO wise, they could say.
Yeah, I mean, I think we did the whole team when that series was coming out and following, and me and Cerise and other folks would go to protests at the East LA Sheriff Station, where we would go to, community sort of events around someone who had been shot by a sheriff's deputy, and I think we all did a really good job carrying the story. I mean, I think going on, I think using social media to sort of get out experiences at those events, where maybe one of us was trying to get a quote from Villanueva, or someone was trying to cover a community gathering where we were being videotaped by sheriff's deputies or something. So I think we did a really good job following up with it and sort of carrying momentum, especially into the election. And
so Cerise is the managing editor of the website. Does that make her the boss?
Knock is a non-hierarchical newsroom, so we do not have any set bosses. What she has what's called a service position, as do I, and as do a few other folks.
This sounds like a hippie organization.
It is. It's supposed to. The intention is to not replicate some of the more. Some people who are in Knock come from more journalistic backgrounds. Like Cerise, for example, has worked in a number of newsrooms and been involved in a number of different types of organizations, and obviously she carries a lot of knowledge of that with her. And the intention has always been not to replicate traditional newsroom structures and sort of toxic workplace culture kind of things. And
so having a boss creates toxicity, do you think? Or having a leader?
I don't know if I could say it does or doesn't, but I feel like with the sort of work we do, with a lot of it being volunteer based, and with a lot of it being folks that aren't necessarily career journalists, or who aren't all necessarily career journalists, are coming to Knock to start a career in journalism, and they maybe are into this sort of work because it's something they something they really care about, or they're just using this small amount of time on their day. Well,
let me ask you this.
So I guess to say is I don't know if it's always. I don't think the structure is necessarily conducive to sort of the people who come to us and work with us and do the work that we do.
You're the pitch editor?
I have the pitches editor, yes.
So you alone decide if the pitch comes in?
No. It's a
hippie place. You guys all do shrooms and say, I like this. It's pretty.
we have a traditional. I mean, we have a relatively traditional and orderly Slack, and better be orderly. I am responsible for sort of being the point of contact.
Okay.
And so and obviously part of that's just like getting sort of lucky and people knowing who I am from social media and stuff like that. So it's easy for people to sort of know. That's sort of why I started doing that role for now, because people would just directly send me crap, and then I'd have to be like, and so anyway, so I will.
So if I'm a writer and I've got a great idea, I send it to you. You send it to Cerise, and she says no.
No.
So
you
there's a meeting on Slack.
You could send it. You could send it to me, or you could send it to our knock email. But then someone puts it. Most likely me will put it into the Slack, and then we'll discuss it. And basically, if there are 3 more thumbs up emoticons, then there are detractors. Then we'll run it.
So it's purely democratic.
Yeah.
It's like the Super Friends.
And I don't think there's anything you could be the one person who's the last detractor who kills something. And then I guess in that sense, you would have
swing vote.
You could be the swing vote, but no one person's saying like, we refuse to run this story, or we are going to run this story.
Right.
And it's not me. And people, so anyone online who thinks it's me and thinks I killed your story.
There was other thumbs down for you.
Yeah, there was other thumbs downs.
Okay. So, I mean, I was making fun of this earlier, but it first of all, it seems very sweet. Because I guess, okay, so you're a Cancer, I'm a Libra. We're cardinal signs, bro.
Okay.
We're leaders. We're born leaders. We can resist it all we want. We can try to be hippies about it. And I do. When I was running LAist, I tried to be as democratic as possible. But at some point, I was like, we're all going to eat Thai food this month, kids. And if people bitch, I'd be like, then fine, you don't get to eat Thai food then. But I want every day there to be an article about the Thai town restaurants. And so we're all going to do it. And I'm the boss, and if you don't like it, go write about something else. But it seemed to work. But maybe it works because they're like, well, Tony is just such a freak. Let's just try it. Fuck it. Right?
Wow, he's just such a brilliant editor and a brilliant publisher.
But I think they're like, you know what? I like Thai food and I like lunch. One day this month I will have Thai lunch. And Thai
I think because a lot of the stuff we cover is so intense and heavy, and one thing I will say, we don't do an amazing job of coming up with like uplifting or like fun cultural pieces, which I think would be very helpful to keep people reading our website on like a daily basis, because a lot of the stuff we come up is very investigative or serious or intense. But I think, the fact that we aren't reliant on ads, and that we like have this sort of base of people who are interested in us, who are interested in the stuff we write about and interested in LA politics and these different issues, that it's just the structure doesn't necessarily always work to run it like that, I think. Now, if you want,
and
obviously it changes if you get a big scoop, and you're saying like, I need help. I think this would be really amazing if we, I think journalism is terrible. I think journalism is one of the worst things ever.
What?
because I hate that you have to compete over getting these stories out and getting them out the right way, and it's just
compete
like,
with who?
I think with everyone. I think if you have a big story and you're like, that there's always gonna be that like nervousness of like, shit, what if I miss it? What if someone else gets it first?
Yeah.
I don't think it's a healthy way to look at.
You should be able to call dibs, and then all the other outlets are like, fine, you got a month.
I don't know what the solution is. I just think it's like I think that's the reason you see a lot of people burn out from journalism, and I think it's the reason you see a lot of really crappy, especially like early coverage of big stories, where the article will come up with like 200 words and it's just a PR press release, right? And it's like, I think that's where propaganda comes from, is that like impetus to have to break news, and
but maybe the goal of being first is that's the silly part of journalism, is that maybe the scoop, maybe the breaking news isn't that awesome, and that the follow-up a month later that's really rich and detailed and has a lot of quotes in it that weren't in the breaker is really what we're striving for.
Well, that's what we're striving for at Knock. But like, as nice as that is, and I'm happy that we're typically striving for that. But like, as nice as it is to say, like, what really matters is the in-depth follow-up. Mm-hmm. We all know that's not how people read the news, and we all know that that's not who gets. People get recognition generally if they break stories, or if they move up in their career, right? If they break stories, or if they're known for breaking stories. So it's like, so as nice of a concept as it is, and I think that's why like Knock is a really unique place, and that we can do that, and we can have an in-depth follow-up to something that may have been already written about, but was missing context or framed poorly, or and we have the audience that will be interested in that. I don't think that's how most of the industry functions.
Let's finish up with this.
Yeah.
You've only been in LA a few years. You've seen the belly of the beast. You've dined at the Cheesecake Factory.
I have, yeah, of course.
You've dined at millionaires' mansions. You've seen it all. Do you love LA? Do you want to stay here the rest of your life? Do you miss Miami? What's going on?
I adore LA. I've loved it since moving here. I mean, there's a lot of stuff I do miss about Miami. There's some pretty unique places and food items there that I don't really have access to out here. The
like
water's
what?
warm, like a fried snapper sandwich, or like a
fried snapper sandwich.
Yeah, I feel like I don't get like a lot of Peruvian ceviche out here either.
Huh.
I mean, there's places I know. There's this one place in Culver, Orlando's, right? That's a Peruvian place, I think. But Miami has a lot of really good ceviche, stone crabs. I miss the stone crabs. I didn't have stone crabs that often, but at Joe's Stone Crab, they did have the $6 fried chicken, and I would get the $6 fried chicken at Joe's Stone Crab.
Sometimes it's just nice just to have the option, even if you don't use it.
Yeah, it's like But no, I've always liked LA since I moved here.
What's your Twitter handle?
My Twitter handle is Johnny Peltz.
Johnny Peltz. Who calls you Johnny?
My mommy and my daddy.
No.
And my sister and my brother.
Do people give you a hard time on Twitter by calling you Johnny?
I don't know. People have like made personal attacks on me, like really, really sideways. Because as you probably will know, I get into it a lot with people.
Yeah, you're good on Twitter.
But they come at me, and I see like Johnny Boy, and I see like, and I'm just like, this is such weak shit. Because like people do call me Johnny in my life, and it's not always an insult. So I think it sometimes is intended as an insult, and I'm just like, I don't understand why I'm supposed to take it as an insult. Yeah. Because it is my name.
How great was Johnny? You know who we'd stay up drinking till 4 a.m. with and not judge? Our Patreons. When you stoke us, you're saying, Tony, Jordan, I missed your birthday. Here's a few bucks. Get yourself a nice piece of fish at Santa Monica Seafood or what have you. So shout out to our Patreons. Nancy Rommelman, Sean Atlow, Matt Mills, Sean Wallace, Greg and Molly, Jamie Taylor, Mark Johnson, Kira Ann, Barney Granke, Ben Welsh, Jen Adams, Trevor Wilson, Bree Wild, Dougie Gyro, Christina Up North, Robin Carey, Adam Shorn, Ben from Down Under, Chris from the ATX, Gregor, and Phil. To be a Patreon, just go to patreon.com/hereinla and give till it hurts. Want to support us, but you bet the Dodgers would still be playing baseball at this time? Youch, but you can still help. Post your favorite episode on your Facebook. For my belated birthday, that's what you can do. Post your favorite episode on your Facebook. We've got 107 to choose from. Go crazy if you want and post 2. Tweet something nice about this. You know, a tweet is pretty good too. And I'll gladly retweet it. In fact, anytime you see here in LA tweet about an episode or even Bus Blog tweet, knock yourself out and retweet it. It'll do good for your soul. And for God's sakes, tell your friends. Tell them how Here in LA is spelled, and then it's on Apple Podcasts and Google and even Spotify and even YouTube. I have to update this copy. Here in LA is produced by myself, Tony Pierce, and a man who really should have been named Speaker of the House, Jordan Katz. Editing, mixing, and music supervision by Jordan Katz. Songs by Orgone and Jordan Katz. Special thanks to Cindy for creating the logo, Jen for inspiring this, and hardworking journalists everywhere trying to get elected officials to live up to their duty. Keep fighting the good fight.